Now, one thing that's becoming more common is people arranging their own funerals.
Yeah, but with the average UK service costing £4,000, it can be very expensive. One option that's popular for saving money and good for the environment is a natural burial, something handyman Wayne Perry has been thinking about.
I'm lucky enough to be in good health, but I'm a planner. And if the worst happens, I don't want my wife to be burdened with lots of decisions about where I'm going to spend eternity.
I've been doing a fair bit of research and looking into arranging my own funeral. But the one thing that shocked me is the cost of a traditional burial.
Paying for a coffin, a funeral car, the burial or cremation, and professional fees all adds up. And it's estimated that the average price of a basic funeral is more than £4,000.
And it's not just expensive. I've also learned traditional send-offs are costly to the environment as well. Getting cremated releases 190 kilograms of CO2 into the atmosphere.
And conventional burials often lead to chemicals eventually entering the ground. Not surprisingly, more people are considering natural burials. These involve biodegradable coffins and being placed into the ground without anything that could harm the environment. As well as being more sustainable, they're also often cheaper. When Richard Vale's mum, Carol, died in 2008, he and wife Sarah decided to honour her love of nature by finding a company that could help with a natural burial.
She loved the garden, always into garden. Years ago, she'd say, I'd love to be buried in a wood. And then some years later, she became ill. And we found a woodland burial site for her. It was really lovely, and she's now in a woodland with a tree growing by the side of her. And I'm sure she'd be very happy with being there.
Richard and Sarah own a mixed farm near the Radnorshire Hills in Powys. Burying Richard's mum got them thinking about setting up their own eco-burial site to offer other families a natural option.
So how long ago did you set up your business here?
It's about 7 years now.
You call them guests here. How many guests do you have buried here?
It's just nearly 90 now, isn't it? Yeah.
And we're starting to get a lot of people come back who say we've been to a funeral and we'd like to reserve a plot for the future for ourselves.
Wow.
And the hills that surround us are protected, which is one of the things that attracted us to living here, knowing that it's this lovely spot, isn't it?
Creating a natural burial ground in an area like this is a big responsibility. Sarah and Richard had to make sure the land was suitable.
How easy was it for you to get planning permission to have this as a burial ground?
It's pretty tough, wasn't it, Richard?
No problem.
Quite had a few hurdles to get through.
We started the process of trying to wade through the paperwork of planning permission, groundwater surveys and all those sort of things. It's just you've just got to learn as you go along.
For this to be, a natural burial ground, what things can and can't you bury with your loved ones?
Well, we asked for a body not to be embalmed, and then for coffins to be easily biodegradable. We don't want to have items in a grave, really. So perhaps somebody may have, say, their wedding ring or whatever, but just to keep it as natural as possible.
I know there are loads of options for burial. I could even investigate being buried at home if I wanted. What I don't want is for my family to face a huge bill for my funeral. To keep costs down, I've even asked a friend to make my coffin in return for me leaving him my tools.
How much does it cost to have a funeral and a burial here?
So we're looking at a complete package of about £2,500. There's no added extras, that's it.
Yeah.
And we look after them for everyone.
What's protecting this land, in generations to come?
The planning is covered, it is as a cemetery. So it would be very difficult for anybody to build on it or do anything other than leave it as a cemetery.
Marion is here today to remember her husband, Nigel. The couple visited the cemetery when he was ill, and they loved the peace of the farm.
Tell me a little bit about Nigel.
He was a wonderful husband, father, had time for everybody. Nigel liked to be in control and was always organised. He didn't want the family to have to worry about anything.
Were his wishes explicitly an eco-funeral rather than a traditional funeral?
Yeah, he wanted to be with nature, so he chose his spots and fell in love with the place.
How comforting is it to know that he's here in this spot?
I feel so relaxed here. The views are amazing. It's tranquil, quiet, and yeah, peaceful.
Most people still prefer to be buried in the traditional way, but there are hundreds of natural burial sites now available, some private and some greener corners of conventional cemeteries. The Association of Natural Burial Grounds recommends making some simple checks, including what happens when the site is full, how it's maintained, and what rules there are to keep things as natural as possible if that's what you want. For example, many only allow eco-friendly coffins like the ones used at Sarah and Richard's site. Willow is a popular choice.
A willow is planted just from a small rod, and every time you cut it down, it will just regrow. It's amazingly sustainable.
Sarah Hatton is a willow weaver based in South Wales. She works with a business partner, Mel, to create sustainable coffins, and she's letting me have a go.
Where do I start?
So if you put the end in a little bit in that gap, and then you go over two.
Over two to start with. How proud are you when you see one of your coffins going out?
Very proud, actually. I've made one for one of my very good friends. My business partner's made one for her mum. So it does, it catches you in the throat a little bit. So yeah, it's special.
How long would it take you to make a standard coffin?
So it takes about 4 days. People come and weave with us. We had a lady recently cut lavender from her mum's garden and wove the lavender into it.
Plywood is made using wood with glue.
Yeah.
How has that been accepted within the eco-burial ground?
There are more environmentally friendly glues that are being used now. So we always offer, whatever anybody wants. That's quite good though, actually. It's good though.
Yeah. There's so many things to consider when you're arranging a funeral, and having choice is only a good thing. Just do your research and make sure that your final resting place is exactly where you want to be.
It did really get me thinking, that one. I haven't really given it much thought, but I quite like the idea of being at one with nature again.
Incredibly peaceful.
It was
wasn't
very
That's what it
peaceful.
was. Thank you, Wayne.